crashed during the Dubai Air Show. Thick black smoke was seen rising from the crash site near the airport, prompting panic among onlookers, including families with children who had gathered to watch the show. We're running those visuals for you now. There are no reports of any casualties yet, but according to onlookers, the pilot did not get ejected before the crash. We'll bring you all the updates in regards to that situation as it unfolds. But back to European updates. Now we move over to the United Kingdom for our next story, and a new inquiry into the UK government's handling of the pandemic in 2019 has now been released. The inquiry reflects the shortcomings of authorities. The report has criticised the government's lack of urgency during the early days of the pandemic, and the United Kingdom was one of the worst hit countries in Europe, with more than 226,000 people having died from coronavirus in Britain since the start of the global pandemic in early 2020. The inquiry chair, Heather Haylett, has said that there was a serious failure by the government to appreciate the level of risk and the calamity that the UK faced and the need to inject urgency into the response. According to the 800-page report, if the first lockdown had been imposed earlier, it could have prevented 23,000 deaths in England alone in the first wave. Johnson, who was Prime Minister at the time and was from 2019 to 2022, has been particularly criticised on various fronts for the pandemic response, including a lack of preparedness and failing to have enough protective equipment for frontline staff. Before we dive into the discussion, let's take a look at what the COVID-bereaved families had to say about the revelations made in the inquiry.
From the inquiry is clear. Boris Johnson is blamed in black and white for the catastrophic mishandling of the pandemic.
I very much found today emotional. My mummy died on the 24th of March 2020. And the chairs made it clear that had a lockdown been a week earlier, people like my mummy would have been saved.
Things like Cheltenham races and other events went on in this country when other countries went into lockdown a lot quicker. But they didn't do things the way they should have done. They made the rules and they broke them, which is heartbreaking.
Mark Sutherland joins us now. He's a geopolitical commentator and he joins us live from London. Mark, it seems so far away now, but one seems to forget 224,000 deaths in the United Kingdom. Of course, Boris Johnson's government at the time was a recipient of much scrutiny. However, this COVID inquiry delivers some further. What can you tell us? Let's go back. And what can you tell us about the situation with COVID in the UK? How it was handled by the Conservative government that was in power at that time, and in particular with Boris Johnson at the helm?
Thomas, good to be with you. So let's go back in history. We're discussing 2020. In March 2020, on the government website, there was, and I think it still is, a piece of paper, a report there that downgraded COVID-19 from a highly infectious disease to a not so highly infectious disease. Then within days, Boris Johnson then announces the lockdown after believing in herd immunity. Now, I hear what you're saying in regard to reported cases of 227,000. And I'm sure that a number of those people, any deaths are awful, and I have utmost sympathy. My heart goes out to those people that lost relatives. But also, on the other hand, I have to put my cards on the table and say that some of this information has to be looked at under a microscope. You give those figures. Did those people have other COVID mobilities that then contributed to this? If we go back further, in the previous year, there was these Chinese Olympic Games. We then lead up to an event 201 in New York, where they are basically, you could say it looks like they are wargaming this. People need to go and have a look at all of this. The reason why I am saying
Okay.
this, and it's alluded in the report, which is the amount of destruction it then brought to the UK and brought to the economy of this country, and hence one of the reasons why we're in a mess right now is because of that. Thomas.
And Mark, we go back to 2020. Of course, if you can remember, Europe was imposing lockdowns. We were one of the last to do so. You can go back and look at the Conservative government's handling of all the scandals. Partygate, that disastrous tier system that was imposed. Of course, this has delivered some brutal criticism of that government's decision-making. What does that tell us about Boris Johnson's leadership, but also Britain's institutional readiness for major crisis?
Well, the other thing is that respectfully, we have to look behind what is this, what is going on behind within our institutions. We remember Boris Johnson standing there night after night with witty and balance to the left, to the right. You then have to look at the Gavi, the Vaccine Association. You then have to look at the business deals that are going on behind. There is also this whole thing of germ theory v. terrain. It comes back down to this, the definition of a vaccine. How good are they? What are they there for? When it goes against humanity's inbuilt body, which actually stands against this from a scientific point of view. Our immunity, our natural immunity. What it then said is, you then look at the scientific advisory group. You then had people on there, people like Susan Mickey, who were a member of the British Communist Party. Why am I raising all of this? This is very, very important, because if people do the homework, they will then realize, were there other nefarious forces behind this to then shut countries down and then to create the economic mess that we are now in? We look at the Swedish model. They didn't shut down. And frankly, as the reporters come out and said, in regard to the shutting down of schools, it was unnecessary in the UK. And that is also part of the report as well, and all the damage that it had done to children's education, etc. Thomas.
Okay. Yes, Mark, we could discuss this for